look at this chubby guy. Why would we want to talk about him? Well, hear me out. He's probably the most influential con man of a generation. He was a magician, Freemason, Egyptian god whisperer, friend of royalty, pimp, snake oil salesman, claimed to be the owner of the Philosopher's Stone, and most importantly, a Sicilian native. And his huckster philosophy had a huge influence on the tarot deck. This is Count Alessandro de Cagliostro, one of history's most enigmatic con men, who dazzled 18th century Europe with his charisma and turned the Freemasons from medieval stone layers to the floating eye over the pyramid we know and are puzzled by today. So let's unravel his insane life story. But how should we do that? The Egyptian god unsubscribe. What's that? As you command. Oh, you're like the Masons in Golden Dawn and have zero understanding of the Egyptian language? Well, he said I should use tarot cards to tell his story, and I have just the tarot deck to do it. I'm Chris Knuch, and welcome to Playing Games. Please comment, like, and subscribe. This is the Cagliostro Tarot. It's designed by Bruno Sigon in honor of the charlatan Cagliostro himself. It was first published in 1912, which was inspired by Cagliostro's teachings. The major arcana are in Egyptian style, while the rest of the cards follow Modiano's standard pattern for the Piemontese tarot cards. See Italian regional cards right here. As mentioned, Cagliostro is a very strange and interesting character. So let's let these cards tell us the story of the Count himself. Each card will illuminate the pivotal events that shaped his extraordinary journey. This deck isn't just any set of cards, it's infused with Egyptian, Freemason, and Kabbalistic imagery because Cagliostro himself wove these mystical traditions in his persona, all of which were instrumental in both his epic rise and crushing defeat. So let's flip over the first card and start our journey. The Fool. The Fool represents beginnings, innocence, adventure, and a leap into the unknown. Our story begins on June 2nd, 1743, in the bustling streets of Palermo, Sicily, where Giuseppe Balsamo was born. Sicilian Balsamo. Like the Fool, he starts his journey full of potential and openness. His circumstances seem to be pivotal in shaping him, though. He lost his parents at a young age and was raised by uncles who seemed to let him roam the city streets. They tried to set him straight by sending him to the seminary to become a priest. Cagliostro learned a lot about religion and little about morality. In fact, while at seminary, Cagliostro's flair for deception became evident. When he was asked to read aloud from religious texts, he would substitute names of well-known sex workers in place of the saints' names during the readings. So what happened next? The Magician. The Magician signifies mastery, cunning, and the ability to turn visions into reality. After being kicked out of seminary school, he was sent to live in a monastic community at the age of 13. It was here, under the care of a monk named Father Albert, that Cagliostro was first introduced to the study of alchemy and chemistry. Father Albert taught Cagliostro about various mystical practices and the manipulation of chemicals like mercury and sulfur. Cagliostro being Cagliostro, he didn't last long in the monastery either. In 1760, Cagliostro ran a small street gang in Palermo, committing petty crimes. He had bigger dreams, though, and came up with a more lucrative score. He convinced the wealthy silversmith, Vincenzo Marano, of a vast hidden treasure beneath Mount Pellegrino. But there was a catch. It was guarded by a powerful treasure demon. Cagliostro convinced Marano that only he possessed the magical knowledge required to defeat the demon and recover the treasure. Cagliostro, then known as Balsamo, claimed that he needed certain supplies, specifically mystical tools and materials that would cost 60 silver pieces. Marano was in it to win it. He handed over the 60 silver pieces worth about $1,200 in today's exchange. Cagliostro guided Marano to the spot. However, Mount Pellegrino didn't contain gold, but rather Cagliostro's street gang dressed up as demons. They beat up the silversmith, and when he came to, Cagliostro told Marano that the mountain genie had gotten the better of him. Before Marano could put two and two together, Cagliostro had left town for good. Alright, next card. The Hermit. The Hermit represents introspection, soul-searching, and the pursuit of deeper truths. After his scams caught up with him, Cagliostro fled Palermo, embarking on travels that led him to Egypt and other parts of the Mediterranean between 1760 and 1764. The Hermit symbolizes his quest for wisdom and enlightenment away from his familiar world, where we have the High Priestess. The High Priestess signifies intuition, mystery, and access to hidden knowledge. In Egypt around 1764, Cagliostro met a mysterious teacher known as Thotas. Under his guidance, he studied alchemy, magic, and other esoteric sciences. This period of his life is often shrouded in myth and speculation, as much of it comes from Cagliostro's own exaggerated accounts. Nonetheless, this encounter marked a significant turning point in his development as a mystic and alchemist, laying the groundwork for his persona of Count Cagliostro, which he would later adopt, which led to La Forza, or strength. Strength embodies inner courage, resilience, and control over one's impulses. He had now proved that he could make his own way, navigating travel through foreign lands. Whether he was making ends meet by street performing as a magician and juggler, or setting up long-game scams on wealthy marks, Cagliostro used his time in exile to sharpen his wits and plans. Strength represents his inner fortitude and discipline required to harness mystical fads that would lead to his success. Next we have the Hierophant, or in this deck, Il Papa. The Hierophant symbolizes tradition, spiritual guidance, and adherence to established structures. Traveling with a Thotas, who may or may not have existed, Cagliostro arrived in Malta around 1766. There he continued his studies and gained favor with the Knights of Malta, connecting him with influential religious figures and perhaps learning of the Freemasons from them. Around this time, he was no longer the street urchin Giuseppe Balsamo, but Count Alessandro de Cagliostro, mysterious heir to a wealthy Italian family. The Hierophant represents his engagement with established religious institutions and traditions like the Knights of Malta. It's the Chariot, or Il Carro. The Chariot signifies willpower, ambition, and the drive to achieve goals, all of which Cagliostro had in spades. In 1768, Cagliostro returned to the fold in the center of it all, Rome. Confident and equipped with new knowledge and recommendations from the Knights of Malta, he embraced the persona of Count Alessandro de Cagliostro. In Rome, he expanded his fraudulent schemes, selling fake potions, and claimed to be in possession of secret powerful medicines from Egypt. However, his charm and letters of recommendation from the Knights of Malta gave him a veneer of legitimacy, and many were eager to believe in the miracles and powers he claimed to possess. The Chariot symbolizes his assertive move forward, harnessing his abilities to navigate societal complexities. Oh, look at this. The Lovers. The Lovers represents meaningful relationships, choices, and aligning with one's values. None of which Cagliostro did for his future wife, but she had to do for him. In 1768, he met and married Lorenza Serafina Feliciani in Rome. She was just 14, and Cagliostro was 25, and believe it or not, even for that time, she was far too young. However, her family bought into Cagliostro's fake family history and thought it was a good enough match. Their union may have been romantic, but it was mostly strategic, forming a partnership that propelled his ambitions. She was sufficiently charmed by the guy and initially seemed to be in on his schemes. The Lover's card embodies this significant choice and alliance. Oh, the Devil card. The Devil represents temptation, materialism, and manipulation. Throughout their partnership, Cagliostro manipulated Lorenza, renaming her Serafina and involving her in deceptive schemes, exploiting both her charm and body to advance his interests. He had her dressed seductively to attract the attention of wealthy marks. It wasn't long before he pimped her out to wealthy patrons across Europe. Not even his wife was safe from his lust for fame and fortune. The Devil highlights this darker aspect of his character and the moral corruption of his actions. La Ruota della Fortuna, the Wheel of Fortune. The Wheel of Fortune signifies cycles of change, fate, and the ups and downs of life. From 1769 to 1785, Cagliostro and Lorenza traveled across Europe, including countries like France, Spain, and England. He gained fame as a healer and mystic, mingling with nobility and high society. Cagliostro claimed to have access to ancient Egyptian alchemical knowledge and often presented himself as somebody who had acquired secret powers through his studies in Egypt. The Wheel of Fortune is a perfect embodiment of this period of rising fortune and social ascent for Cagliostro. The Star, or Le Stelle. The star represents hope, renewal, and guidance. Between 1780 and 1783, Cagliostro settled in Strasbourg, France, gaining fame as a healer and alchemist. He was celebrated for his supposed miraculous cures. He gained the trust of many wealthy patrons by promising them cures for ailments, longevity through the elixir of life, and possibly immortality through the Philosopher's Stone. Cagliostro had hit upon a winning revelation. The rich wanted to live longer and look younger, and he had all the skills to fool them into thinking he could be their solution. The star symbolizes this period of inspiration and the seemingly positive impact he had on others. Like all good con men, you want your marks to feel good even after they've been fleeced. So, sure. Next we have Temperance. Temperance signifies moderation, patience, and finding balance in life. This one might seem harder to define, but he would blend mystical practices with societal norms in a way that would appeal both to the elite and the common folk. His wife, Lorenza Serafina, now in her 20s, was also integral in his schemes, as her beauty and allure swayed many to his teachings, because he must be doing something right if he landed such a pretty bride. If only they knew. He would make many promises that would appeal to the rich and the poor. His life story was aspirational for the poor, and his solutions, for the right price, were accessible to the rich. The Sun, or Il Sole. The sun symbolizes joy, success, and enlightenment. In 1785, Cagliostro returned to Paris, becoming a sensation among the elite. His salons attracted nobility, and his Egyptian rite flourished, because Egyptomania! 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 Egyptomania was all the rage. At this time, Europeans romanticized Egypt as the cradle of lost wisdom, fueling an obsession with its mystical symbolism, monuments, and rituals. Cagliostro capitalized on this trend, blending his knowledge of religion, Egyptian culture, and of course, his vivid imagination. This all culminated in his Egyptian rite of Freemasonry, which promised spiritual and physical regeneration. Cagliostro began founding his own branches of Masonic lodges, combining traditional Masonic lore with his own Egyptian mythology. This had a great appeal to many Freemasons, who originally traced their roots back to medieval stonemasons, but now they could claim they built the pyramids themselves. Sweet. However, for many Freemasons, Cagliostro went too far, especially in his audacious decision to allow women to participate in the rite, a significant break from Masonic tradition. Despite the controversy, the influence of Egyptomania and Cagliostro's mystical innovations continue to linger in the secretive circles of Freemasonry's all-boys club. The sun represents this pinnacle of success and the warmth and widespread admiration he had. This was the height of his influence. But as the saying goes, what goes up must fall down. The tower signifies sudden change, chaos, and the collapse of false structures. In 1785, Cagliostro found himself caught up in the infamous affair of the diamond necklace, a scandal involving Marie Antoinette and Cardinal de Rohan. While Cagliostro wasn't directly involved in the crime, his close connection to the cardinal made him a suspect. The scheme, orchestrated by Comtesse de la Motte, used forged letters to deceive de Rohan into purchasing a lavish necklace, supposedly for the queen. Cagliostro was arrested on August 22, 1785, and imprisoned in the Bastille. The tower represents the abrupt destruction of his carefully built reputation and the chaos that ensued from the scandal. Justice, la giustizia. Justice represents fairness, truth, and facing the consequences of one's actions. Cagliostro stood trial and was acquitted on June 1, 1786, but his reputation would be forever tarnished. Justice symbolizes this confrontation with the law and his need to account for his actions. Death. Did he die? No, he didn't die. Death can also signify transformation, endings, and the necessity for change. Okay. Despite his acquittal, Cagliostro was expelled from France shortly thereafter. His association with mysticism and the affair of the diamond necklace left French authorities uneasy, and on June 1st he was ordered to leave by King Louis XVI. His forced departure was a public rejection, signaling the end of his influence in France. The moon, la luna. The moon reflects illusion, fear, and uncertainty. From 1786 through 1789, Cagliostro wandered through countries such as England, Switzerland, and Germany, but wherever he went, he faced suspicion and dwindling fortunes. The moon represents his confusion and the haunting of his past deeds. This is not getting better. The Hanged Man. The Hanged Man can signify letting go, surrender, and a new perspective. In 1789, seeking a fresh start, Cagliostro returned to Rome with hopes of reigniting his brand of Freemasonry by founding a new lodge. However, in a city dominated by the Catholic Church, there was little room for competing secretive societies, especially one that involved Egyptian mysticism and pyramids. On December 27, 1789, the Inquisition arrested him, marking the closing chapter of Cagliostro's controversial career. The Hanging Man symbolizes his forced retirement. Judgement. Judgement embodies evaluation, awakening, and the revelation of truth. Between 1790 and 1791, Cagliostro was tried by the Inquisition. His past deceptions were brought to light. He was charged with heresy, sorcery, and Freemasonry, all of which were seen as blasphemous in the eyes of the church. Looks like we're almost done. The Emperoress. At the height of the Inquisition, Cagliostro faced his most personal betrayal, and it came from the very person he had once molded to be his closest ally, his wife, Serafina. Instead of standing by him, she used her influence against him. On the stand, she sang like a bird and revealed detailed information of the decades-long scams he had run. The Empress perfectly captures this twisted inversion of feminine power. What was once meant to sustain him now brought him to his ruin. Hell hath no fury like the scorn of a woman who was married too early. Lastly, we have the world. The world signifies completion, fulfillment, and the integration of experiences. Cagliostro died on August 26, 1795, in the fortress of San Leo, far removed from the grand courts that once adored him. His dreams of blending Egyptian mysticism with Freemasonry were over. His reputation shattered. His wife, who had turned on him during his trial, faded into obscurity after his death. His closest followers distanced themselves, embarrassed by the downfall of their enigmatic leader. And yet a small group of his acolytes strove to keep his nonsensical Egyptian philosophy alive, which is why we now have these. Epilogue. Oh, this is back. The tower. Rather than becoming a high priest of a new religion, Cagliostro was kept in a small, windowless cell known as the Pozzetto. He spent his final years in this isolated, decaying state, dying on August 26, 1795. Then as now, charismatic figures who promise dramatic change amid clear lies and deception often attract devoted followers. Despite mounting evidence of his fraud, many clung to his vision, caught up in the allure of a systematic shift that would elevate them or give them access to hidden power. This blind loyalty, built on charisma rather than truth, echoes through time. But like this card, baseless foundations are eventually toppled under their own bloated weight. Or so the cards say. And there you have it. The extraordinary life of Count Alessandro de Cagliostro, intricately mapped out in his weird Egyptian arcana. Do you have thoughts on Cagliostro's life or other figures you'd like to see explored in this way? Or do you just want to say hi? Drop a comment below. Please subscribe, share, and like to keep this channel thriving. You are great. See you next time on Playing Games.